Miracle African Tales. Beauty and the Beast. The Beast of Lagos. Lagos was no stranger to chaos, but the name Toby Adu evoked a different kind of dread. At just 26 years old, Toby had carved a reputation as the city's untouchable menace. He was the only son of Senator Bolaji Adewale, a man with deep pockets and deeper political connections. What Toby lacked in character, he made up for in arrogance, and his father's power shielded him from the consequences of his actions. From the polished streets of Victoria Island to the crowded lanes of Ajigona, tales of Toby's escapades spread like wildfire. His nights were spent racing luxury cars through the city, leaving trails of destruction in his wake. Market stalls overturned, pedestrians shoved aside, Toby's recklessness left no room for apology. By day, he strutted through Lagos as though he owned it, his towering frame and designer wardrobe announcing his privilege before he even spoke. But it wasn't just his wealth that made Toby dangerous, it was his disdain for the less privileged. To him, they were invisible. If a trader's cart blocked his path, he would destroy it without a second thought. If a beggar reached for alms, he would scoff and toss a crumpled bill on the ground, forcing them to scramble for it. His parents, Senator Bolaji and his wife, Dupe, were helpless in the face of their son's behavior. The senator's career demanded a polished public image, and Dupe was more concerned with maintaining her status among Lagos's elite than reigning in her son. Behind closed doors, they expressed their frustrations, but Toby dismissed their lectures with a shrug. "I'm a prince in this city," he would say. "Who dares stop me?" One humid afternoon, Toby's latest escapade led him to a bustling roadside market in motion. Traders called out to passers-by, their voices competing with the blaring horns of downfall buses. Among them was Mama Ife, a widowed woman in her early 50s who sold jollof rice and fried plantains from a makeshift stall. Her daughter, Ife, a strikingly beautiful young woman with a radiant smile, often helped her after finishing her job search. Mama Ife's stall was modest but popular, drawing customers from all walks of life. Ife had recently graduated from university with honors but had yet to secure a job. She was her mother's pride and joy, a symbol of resilience and hope in a world that often felt bleak. As Toby's black G-Wagon approached the market, traders hurriedly moved their goods aside, fearing the wrath of the senator's son. He parked haphazardly, blocking traffic, and stepped out with his usual air of entitlement. His eyes scanned the market until they landed on Mama Ife's stall. The smell of freshly fried plantains wafted toward him, and he sauntered over, flanked by two of his equally unruly friends. "Hey, old woman!" Toby's voice boomed as he approached. Mama Ife froze, her hands trembling slightly as she recognized him. "Yes, sir. How can I help you?" she asked cautiously. "I'm hungry. Give me rice, plantain, and turkey. And be quick about it," he demanded, tossing a few crumpled naira notes onto the counter. Mama Ife hurried to serve him, but her hands shook as she plated the food. Ife, who had been arranging plates nearby, stepped forward to help her mother. Toby's gaze shifted to her, and his expression darkened with interest. "And who's this?" he asked, his tone dripping with arrogance. "This is my daughter, sir," Mama Ife replied hesitantly. Toby smirked. "You didn't tell me you had such a fine daughter. What's your name, beautiful?" "Ife," she replied curtly, avoiding his gaze. Her disinterest only fueled his ego. He leaned closer, invading her personal space. "You're too pretty to be serving food at a roadside stall. Come with me. I'll show you what life really looks like." "She's not going anywhere with you," Mama Ife said firmly, stepping between her daughter and Toby. The market grew quiet as onlookers watched the exchange. Toby's face twisted with anger. He wasn't used to being denied. "Do you know who I am?" he hissed. "I can buy this entire market and shut it down. Don't test me, old woman." Mama Ife held her ground, but her voice wavered. "Please, sir. Take your food and leave us in peace." Toby grabbed Ife's wrist, his grip tight and unyielding. "You're coming with me," he said, dragging her toward his car. Ife struggled, her cries echoing through the market, but no one dared to intervene. They knew the consequences of crossing Toby Adu. Even the police avoided him, their loyalty bought with his father's money. Mama Ife ran after them, pleading and begging for her daughter's release, but Toby shoved her aside with ease. "She'll thank me later," he sneered before forcing Ife into the back seat of his car. As the G-Wagon sped off, the market erupted into whispers. Some wept for Mama Ife, who collapsed in anguish, while others cursed the city's broken system that allowed men like Toby to reign unchecked. Inside the car, Ife's terror grew with every mile. She begged Toby to let her go, but her words fell on deaf ears. He reveled in her fear, his arrogance blinding him to the humanity of the woman beside him. The days after Ife's assault passed in a blur of pain and humiliation. The young woman who had once been the pride of her small community now lived in the shadows of trauma. Her beauty, which had once drawn admiration, now felt like a curse. Everywhere she turned, it seemed the world whispered about her tragedy, even when no one spoke aloud. Her mother, Mama Ife, had changed too. The once resilient woman now seemed a shadow of herself. She rarely ate, barely spoke, and spent her nights sobbing into her pillow. Her heart was heavy with guilt. She had been unable to protect her daughter when it mattered most. The memory of that day haunted Ife. Toby Aduwole's face was seared into her mind, his sneer, his laughter, his cold disregard for her cries. Every night, the dreams came. They weren't dreams, really, they were nightmares. She would wake up drenched in sweat, her heart racing, and her throat raw from silent screams. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a crimson glow over Lagos, Mama Ife gathered her remaining strength. She had been toiling all day, cleaning the small house she and Ife called home. Her frail hands trembled as she placed a bowl of soup before her daughter. Ife pushed the bowl away, her appetite long gone. "I can't, Mama," she said softly, her voice hollow. Mama Ife sat beside her, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Ife," she whispered, "I have failed you. I couldn't protect you. I couldn't stop him." "Mama, it's not your fault," Ife replied, but her voice broke, betraying the deep sorrow that lived within her. Mama Ife clenched her fist, her anger simmering beneath her grief. She had prayed endlessly, seeking solace from God, but her pain only grew. That night, something inside her snapped. She fell to her knees in their small living room, her hands lifted to the heavens, and she let out a cry so raw it seemed to shake the walls. "Heavenly Father," she wailed. "You saw what that boy did to my daughter. You saw the pain he caused us. I curse him, O Lord. May he never know peace. May his life be filled with sorrow and suffering until he begs for mercy. May his evil return to him 1,000-fold." Her voice grew louder, the intensity of her words sending shivers down Ife's spine. "As a mother, I curse you, Toby Adu. You will feel the pain you have caused. You will know heartbreak. You will cry tears that never end, and may death flee from you when you beg for it." When she finished, she collapsed onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Ife rushed to her mother's side, but deep down, she felt the weight of her mother's words. A strange chill filled the room, as though the universe had paused to listen. The curse takes hold. Toby's life began to unravel almost immediately. It started subtly, a sudden fever that refused to break, no matter how many doctors his parents summoned. The once arrogant and handsome young man found himself riddled with inexplicable ailments. His skin broke out in painful sores, his hair began to fall out, and his body grew weak. At first, Senator Bolaji and his wife, Dupe, dismissed it as stress or bad luck. They poured money into private hospitals, flew in specialists, and even sought spiritual healers, but nothing worked. As Toby's health deteriorated, his arrogance turned to desperation. The once cocky young man now spent his days writhing in pain, begging for relief. But no matter how much he pleaded, death refused to claim him. Meanwhile, Ife's life spiraled further into despair. Her mother's health began to decline rapidly after the night of her curse. The older woman barely ate and was plagued by unrelenting grief. Ife watched helplessly as the woman who had been her rock withered away before her eyes. "Mama, you have to eat," Ife begged one evening, kneeling beside her mother's bed. "Ife, Mama," Ife whispered, her voice barely audible. "My heart, it can't bear this pain. Forgive me, my child. I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you." "Mama, please don't leave me," Ife sobbed, clutching her mother's frail hand. But her pleas were in vain. That night, Mama Ife passed away, her broken heart finally giving out. Ife's screams echoed through their small home, drawing neighbors to their door. The funeral was a somber affair, attended by a handful of friends and well-wishers. Ife stood at her mother's graveside, her face streaked with tears. As she placed a handful of soil over the casket, she whispered, "I swear, Toby Adu, you will pay for this. You destroyed my family, and I curse you with everything I have left." News of Toby's mysterious illness spread like wildfire through Lagos. Whispers of Mama Ife's curse reached the ears of his parents, and desperation drove them to action. "Find the girl," Senator Bolaji ordered his aides. "Find her and bring her to us. We need her to undo this." For months, the Adewale family searched. Toby's parents scoured the streets, bribed officials, and even threatened locals to locate Ife. But she had disappeared, retreating to a distant town to escape the pain and memories of Lagos. Toby's condition worsened with each passing day. His once vibrant face was now gaunt and pale, his body frail and broken. He spent his nights in restless agony, haunted by nightmares of Mama Ife's curse and Ife's tear-streaked face. "Please," he whispered one night, his voice hoarse. "Find her. I'll do anything. Just make this stop." But Ife was nowhere to be found. And so, Toby's torment continued.